I didn't argue. My goal is just to understand what it says. And I remember the two main key guys walking out one day, and I was behind him, and the one guy said, "Boy, this is what Sunday school should have been like." Because they got to vent anything they had against the Bible and Christianity. And then one of the guys stood up. This is like months down the road. He stood up in the middle of this big table, or by this big table, conference room, and he stood up and he slammed his hands down and he says, "I will believe in Jesus when he walks through that wall and performs a miracle for me, and not until then." And he walked out. Wow. And I thought, that's awesome. God is at work here. And
yeah.
Long story short,
within
5 months, I was meeting with him and another friend. There were four of us, and I could tell his whole countenance had changed. You just could kind of tell. And I said, "Hey, Jay, what happened?" He says, "Well, I met Jesus." And God, because I started praying, God would walk through the wall in his heart and perform a miracle. That was my prayer.
Wow.
And God did that. Yeah. And the other guy was hardcore. He confessed to me. He said, and this guy was really hardcore. He said, "I wish I could believe like you and Jay do now."
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if he ever did. I know that he, because of his wife, he started going to a church. Even though I know in the beginning going to church he wasn't a believer, and I've lost track of him. That's been quite a few years ago.
So what does navigators mean, actually, that name?
Okay. Well, there's a little story in there of how they got their name.
Okay.
But because they started with Navy guys, and there was a young guy on a ship that Dawson got to know, and the guy, because he wanted to build the friendship, he learned about celestial navigation from this kid. And he saw the parallels between the captain of the ship being Jesus, the compass of the ship being the Holy Spirit, and I don't remember all the details of that, but the idea of getting on board, getting saved, and navigating through life, and helping others navigate in their walks with God. Something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And the stars would be God's creation.
And not to crash up on a rock that's, navigate you through those murky waters or those trials and temptations.
And troubled waters.
Yeah.
And it comes back to what we call discipleship, Do we teach people a set of rules, or do we teach them to build that relationship with God?
Right.
And how to pass that on to someone else.
Jesus Christ is not about rules. He's about a relationship.
Yes.
And most people don't get that. But he's the only God man around that offers that.
Yes.
A relationship.
So.
Well, I'm always interested how men relate to Jesus, because most of the time I'm with women friends, and women tend to have a real ease in discussion and openness, and I kind of tend to see men as being very kind of, superficial as far as opening up really deeply. And so I've always been intrigued how men then draw close to Jesus, because I think it's different how a woman draws close to Jesus. So could you tell me how men draw closer to, I know this sounds kind of funny, but I kind of think women have an advantage drawing closer to Jesus.
I have an observation in that regard.
Okay.
I'm only aware of one woman. I'm sure there have been many, many more, but in the Bible and that at least, there's only been one woman that betrayed Jesus.
Okay.
There were many men.
Right.
You know who the woman was?
I'm thinking.
It was Eve.
Oh, okay.
But he had, in a sense, female disciples.
Right.
And none of them betrayed him. They were at the grave on Resurrection Day.
That's right.
But the men, except for John, they all ran.
That's right.
They're all cowards, including Peter.
So, I've just been intrigued. I've never really sat down and asked a man, but do I not make sense?
So the question, let me just see if I'm getting the question right. The question is, how do men relate to Jesus different from women? Is that the question?
Well, I just think we as women kind of have an advantage because he's a man and we're looking for that manliness. And I'm thinking, does a man look for manliness? I don't know. See, I'm just kind of lost as to how a man can love Jesus?
Well,
Do
I
you
think that's a great
see-
question.
Okay, good.
Well, I would say I have friends, male friends that I love. They're my brothers.
Okay.
We would go. I have people. You talk about accountability.